This is the Next Bite of Life podcast, the place to be to hear personal stories from expats, digital nomads, and everybody else taking their next bite of life. Welcome to another episode of the Next Bite of Life podcast. My name is Kem. Today, I have my friend, Kris Sunkara, and he's going to talk all about his life in Valencia and how life was like. So say hello to everyone.
Hola todos, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I know we had to reschedule a couple of times. You've been in Valencia for how long?
It's been nearly 2 years now.
Okay. And that's Valencia, Spain for everybody listening, because lately I've been getting a lot of people saying, oh my God, I'm like, sorry, it's not Valencia in the Philippines. Apparently there's some really big place there with the same. Right. So now I have to make sure I mention Spain every time I say that. So 2 years, huh? How are you liking it?
I love Valencia. I moved here from California, and in some ways it reminds me a lot of Southern California. Okay. You're talking about the weather or the culture, very similar to Southern California. So for me, it was not that much of a transition coming from California to Valencia. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I chose Valencia. Was I was looking at places to move outside of the US, and I looked at other countries. I looked at other places in Europe, and then I looked at other places in Spain. And I thought Valencia, as far as the weather, the culture, and everything, was the closest that I could come as far as Southern California and what I was looking for.
Oh, that's great. Now, before we start on the Valencia life, give me some background. Like, how was life in the U.S.? Where exactly were you? What were you doing there? And how was that, like, pressure-wise?
Absolutely. I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. My dad was he was a physician. He came here from India in the late 60s. Medicare passed in 1968. So they were recruiting doctors from other countries because there was a shortage of doctors in the U.S. And so they actually recruited my dad straight out of medical school. So he just finished medical school in 1968, and they recruited him, and he came to the U.S. And there was such a need for doctors. They actually paid for his ticket. They paid for his apartment. They paid for all his furniture. So he actually had a good setup coming to the U.S. And so he ended up in St. Louis, and we grew up there. So it was a fairly tranquil lifestyle in the suburbs, St. Louis. Very stable, very middle class, upper middle class lifestyle. And so I did all my schooling there, went to college there also. Oh. So I lived there for basically until I was about in my late 20s. I lived my entire life in St. Louis. Went to college there. I mean, I did in the 20s, I went to a lot of schooling, a lot of college, post-college, medical school, MBA. So my entire 20s were basically spent studying.
In school, yes.
And so to a certain extent, I kind of feel like I lost my 20s because I was constantly studying. And so I always think about whenever somebody asks me, why aren't you working? Why are you like spending, wasting your life, in Europe or in Spain when you have all this education and when you should be using that and when you should be working? And my answer to that is like, I spent my 20s studying. So I kind of feel like I'm making up for my lost time because a lot of people in their 20s, they don't know what they want to do. So they travel and they enjoy their 20s. And I didn't get to have that. So now I feel like I'm kind of making up for that lost time.
How was it like, coming from that background, that heavy background where your dad is a doctor, and I'm sure probably quite a few members are all in the same profession or something like that. How did it feel when you told them that you were not going to go forward with that? I assume at some point, at least you were going to take a break from that.
Yeah, well, the thing is at first it was like, you're doing what?
That's what my parents would have said.
Yeah. So the thing is like, it is so atypical, especially coming in with that much education. And again, the education in the U.S. is so expensive, right? Yes. Medical school is about $50,000 to $60,000 per year, and that's 4 years. And then MBA is another like $40,000 to $50,000 per year. So it's very expensive education. Mm-hmm. And after all that time to not be using it, it seems for most people it seems just like outright craziness, like out of the realm of what is a norm. But for me, the way that I look at it is that, listen, for me, time is more valuable than money, right? We have one life, we live 75 years, 80 years, whatever it is. And I have enough money. I'm not the money that I have. I'm never going to be able to, unless I do something crazy and go nuts. I'm never going to be able to spend all my money in my lifetime. So if you have enough money, the way to be happier, the way to maximize your happiness, I think, is to spend your time doing the things you want to do. And I think that's what I'm doing right now. I want to be in Spain. I want to travel to other countries in Europe. So Spain is a great way to do that. I want to do something that that I get up in the morning that I look forward to. And I love, teaching the kids here with no pressure, no expectations, going to school, and I don't even work full time. I work half time in the program. So it's only 20 hours a week. So I have a lot of free time if I want it, or I could, spend it teaching other kids if I want to. And, and then on the weekends and stuff like that in the summers, I could travel. I mean, for me, it's compared to what I was doing before where, you have to go to work. It's 8 to 5, but in the US, it's never 8 to 5. It's 8 to 9 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly.
On the weekend. So, I mean, you're talking about, I think before you started recording, we were talking about stress.
Yeah.
I mean, the stress went from such a high level to now it's what stress? I don't really have any day-to-day stress at this point.
Exactly. You almost feel guilty for not having stress, right?
Yeah. And before I came to Spain, I was actually, my last job in the US, I was actually working for a small company. It was it had less than 100 people. So it is fairly small, but the CEO was fairly elderly. He was close to 70 or 7, a little bit over 70. So I was essentially the senior manager. So I was essentially running it on his behalf. So I had to deal with a lot of people and had to deal with running the company and so forth. So that was a lot of stress. So, since then coming to here and having no stress on a day-to-day life just feels like a heavy burden has been lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah, and it should be that way because like you said before, life is really short and you should be doing, something you love. And I know we're conditioned to say, okay, you go to school, you go to medical school and you work for 40 years and you deal with the insurance companies and everything else that happens with that. And then you retire and then you drop dead basically after 2 years of, working all this time and your children get to enjoy or whoever it is, your family gets to enjoy the money that you spent so much time accumulating. And it's wonderful to see somebody this young say, you know what, money's not the end of everything. The quality of life matters, which a lot of people don't hear often enough.
And I think that to a certain extent, I mean, outside the US, I see that perspective a lot more, especially in Europe, where they're not as focused on making the most income or making, spending, on material stuff. They're focused more on experiences. They're focused more on family. And I think for me, I fit in with that perspective a lot more here in Europe than in the United States.
Wow, that is it's such a good observation because when I tell people, they're like, don't you miss the big house, the big things, I have my friends still back at home doing, the same old thing, working and spending every single dollar as fast as they make it, going to the games, doing this, and it's all show off, do it.
Yeah.
But you don't realize. And when you see the other side and you see how they're you go out, how many times we go out in the afternoon and people are sitting around at the tapas just playing with friends, playing their games or just chatting, just people watching. And it's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the culture here in Spain is so much more social than in the United States.
Yes.
And I think part of it is, I think there's a lot of things that go into that. One is, I think the social units here are more cohesive. So, for example, the families are more tight-knit.
Yes.
And I see that at school. So the kids have to go, they don't have to go, but a lot of the kids go home for lunch. And so what happens is the grandparents come and pick them up and then bring them back to school. And then after school is over, they pick them up from school. And in the mornings, they bring them to school. In the United States, I've never seen grandparents bring kids to school, at all. And
they don't even live in the same state, probably.
Yeah, they don't even live in the same state, or a lot of times you see your grandparents maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Here, they're a very integral part of the kids' lives.
Yeah.
And like the teachers know all the grandparents, they know all the parents of their students. In the United States, my parents never knew any of my teachers at all. Yeah. They've never met any of them. And here they do. And not only that, but a lot of the parents associate with the teachers and the parents, they associate after school. So a lot of them live in the same neighborhoods. Yes. They go vacation together. I've never seen that in the U.S. So the society here is so much more cohesive. And you know, a lot of times you hear in the U.S. people say, you know, I wish, you know, there was a sense of community in the U.S. Yes. Like if you're living in the suburbs, you know, you say, how come everybody is so distant? I wish there's more sense of community. Well, here in Spain, there is, because you live in the neighborhoods. Everybody is so close together. Yeah. Whereas in the, you know, when I was growing up, our suburbs is like, you have your big house, your big yard, and everything is spread out.
And the fence, exactly.
To the grocery store, it's like 3 miles away. Yeah. My school was like 5 miles away, so I had to take a bus to school. And here it's not like that. All the kids walk to school.
Walk to school, exactly.
You know? And if you want to go to the grocery store, I walk to the grocery store. And then on the way to the grocery store, a lot of times I see my neighbors. You know, I talk to my neighbors. I wave to my neighbors. And so that makes it much more social, you know, such more social life, more social environment, more social city. And so it just percolates, you know, through the entire environment here. So it's just totally different than what you experience in the U.S.
Yes, that's fantastic. Especially, you know, this is the first time I'm hearing from a teacher's point of view, because I know like they're very social, and I know like the teachers know the parents and stuff. I didn't even know, like, because, you know, to register for school, they need to be in the school has to be in the neighborhood that you're in. So yeah, most of them, I think I've seen like 2 or 3 school buses since I've been here, and they were like for school for expats, basically, because everybody else usually walks to school.
Yeah, my school is actually, it's a special needs school. So all the students who have special needs, like if they have like some sort of physical handicap, or they have some sort of speeching issue, whatever, our school is equipped with the teachers and with the equipment to deal with that. So we get students from other neighborhoods.
Okay.
But even having said that, you know, we have, let's see, how many students do we have? I think we have about 150 students in my school over 6 grades and plus the infantil. So it's like 8 or 9 grades. So we have about 150 students. We only have like 6 or 7 special needs students. And those are the only students that are coming outside of where we live. Every other students are just local here. And that's so a lot of times, you know, when I'm like running outside, I would see them, they would wave to me. And, I mean, yeah.
It makes life so much sweeter, doesn't it? You know, because we're social animals underneath everything, you know, so it's kind of nice to see that, you know, it's nice to go out and see the same dogs being walked by the same people. So we say hello. It's not like, oh my God, come to my house or anything like that, but it just makes life a little bit richer, gives you a chance to practice your Spanish and everything. So it's really cool. Now, you had mentioned before that Valencia, when you were doing your research, take us through like how you decided on Valencia.
Well, what happened was, so I left. So this was almost 7 years ago. I left I didn't leave voluntarily. I was kind of fired from my job because the old CEO. So what happened was I was trying to buy the company, and the old CEO was not willing to give up the company. So we kind of had our differences. So I was essentially left the company at that point. And so I was trying to figure out what to do. And so I had some free time. So I actually ended up moving. I was living in the Bay Area. I moved up. I ended up moving to San Diego, nicer weather, and I get to live by the beach in San Diego.
Of course.
So I was living in San Diego, trying to figure out what to do. And I noticed that I had more time to exercise. I had more time to myself. I was enjoying life a lot more. So at that point, I said, you know, I'm not sure if I really do want to go back to work. So then I was trying to figure out, if I don't want to go back to work, what do I want to do? You know, what do I really like to do? And I said, well, I like to travel. I like to learn. You know, I like to experience new things. So, and I was trying to put all that together, and I said, okay, well, if I like to travel and I want to experience new things, why don't I try, seeing, if I can live outside the country? Because, I've been to most of the countries in Asia. I've been to a lot of the countries in like South and Central America. I said, maybe at first I was thinking maybe I could go and live in Mexico or somewhere a little bit closer to the U.S.
Yeah.
But I thought about it and I said, listen, the one area that I haven't really traveled a lot in Europe, and I really do want to travel in Europe, and not only Europe, but other areas close to Europe like Northern Africa and Middle East. And so if I'm going to do that, I might as well live somewhere close to where I want to travel, and then it'll be so much easier to travel. Just like hop on a plane for the weekend, go there, come back, whatever. Yeah. Instead of like from the U.S., it's almost like you have to plan the entire trip, and
within your 2 weeks vacation, right?
Yeah, the whole thing. And so once I started doing that, I was like, okay, so I said, okay, I'm definitely going to live outside the U.S. Now, where do I want to live? Do I want to live in Asia, or do you want to live in Europe? And since I want to travel in Europe, I said, okay, I want to live in Europe. Now, which country in Europe? I didn't want to live in Northern Europe because one is the weather. I was looking for weather that is very similar to Southern California. I wanted to have like warm year-round as much as possible. And second is I really value the culture and the people of the country. So just to give you an example, again, Northern Europe, they're a lot more insular. They're not as social. So it's really hard to integrate into society. So if you go to Germany, if you go to Sweden, it's really hard to make friends. It's hard to fit in. Whereas I think Spain, people are a lot more friendlier here, and it's a lot easier to make friends here. And I thought for me, as coming in as an outsider, it's a lot easier for me to fit into Spain versus almost any other country in Europe. Maybe UK is a special exception, but I thought for me, UK is too similar to the US. It would just be it'd be like going from San Francisco to like Boston or something, it's not going to be that big of a difference. But for me to really experience something new, to learn a new culture, to hopefully learn Spanish as much as possible, which I thought for me was useful so that I could travel to other countries, whether it's in like South America or whatever, that I could actually experience more of the culture. I thought Spain was a perfect fit. And then once I figured out that I wanted to move to Spain, again, going through the process of where in Spain. Northern Spain, beautiful, but again, it's a lot of rain and, a lot of dreary weather. Central Madrid, again, really hot summers, go through that. Or the coast, which is very similar to San Diego, San Francisco, Los Angeles weather, where it's more temperate year round. Great weather, great people, fantastic food. I love paella. So I think for me, everything just kind of
clicked.
Just kind of works as far as Valencia is concerned. And also, I spent a lot of time reading about the different cities and the different areas in Spain. Again, that's how I found your blog. I was kind of, read all the different local perspectives and perspectives from outsiders and what they think of the different cities. And the more I read about Valencia, I thought this was kind of like the perfect fit for what I was looking for. And so then once I figured out I wanted to come to Valencia, then I started applying for the auxiliaries program, and I requested Valencia as my first choice. And I was kind of lucky to get Valencia as my first choice, and ended up here.
Yeah, that's amazing, because a lot of times I hear that they're like, I applied for Madrid and I got bumfuck somewhere, and they just like, oh my God, how did that happen? So it's kind of great that you ended up in your first, with your first choice place.
Yeah, it's lucky because Valencia, what happened was, I think you probably know this about Valencia, is Valencia always tends to be a little disorganized.
Yes.
And so Valencia, I think in 2010 or 2011, they dropped out of the program because they were disorganized. And I think they were not allocating the money properly or something. So they were basically left the program for 6 or 7 years, and they came back to the program in 2018. And so since they came back into the program, not many people were applying to this Comunidad, because everybody knew about Madrid, everybody knew about Barcelona or Andalusia, but Valencia was new to the program again after 6 or 7 years. So not many people were applying. And so when I was applying, it was fairly easy to get into Valencia. Now, as people are starting to write about their experience in Valencia and noticing how good the life is here. Now Valencia is becoming really popular for the auxiliaries, and now there's like hundreds and hundreds of students applying here.
Yeah, exactly. You know, all the Forbes magazine and all the articles about Valencia being a great place to live has, like, you know, opened the floodgates, and now the prices are starting to reflect that just a little bit. And
by the way, all those articles about how great Valencia is to live is true. In my
you know, it's so funny because, like, it took me, I think it was maybe about 2 years after we started living here before I started writing about it on the blog. It was like I discovered this place that you're sort of afraid to let people know about because, you know, they're going to see how good it is, and then they're going to want to move there, and then it's going to affect all the prices, and then it's going to become like another Barcelona and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, it's weird the way Valencia is kind of set up. I don't think it could ever become like a Barcelona per se, because I don't think it's just not that big, but I don't know. But, you know, we're enjoying it now, and that's all that counts.
Yeah, the thing I worry about more than like prices for like expats and outsiders is I worry about that if we're influencing the prices locally, because
definitely,
because the people here don't make as much income as in Barcelona or in Madrid or even in
not even close.
Not even close, yeah. And so I worry about like me coming in from California, where I have a lot more income. I was able to save a lot more, that I'm affecting how much they're able to afford. Because once we start competing for the same housing or start competing for the same like cars and stuff like that, that we're increasing the prices for them.
We're definitely doing that. I mean, you can see it in the neighborhoods of like Rusafa, for instance, or Carmen, which are places that the locals were living in and, you know, paying $500 for an apartment. Now, I have a friend who pays like $1,300 for an apartment. You know, and Rusafa is just going crazy, and everybody's coming in because people come in and they think, I was paying $3,000 in New York, and they see the rent here for $1,500, and they think, oh my God, that is so cheap. And they go ahead and take it, not knowing that even for somebody that's been here, that's been living here for a year, could easily tell you that apartment is only worth $950. But you're coming in thinking of it in the space, the mindset of dollars that you're willing to pay that much. And yes, it does affect, you know, what I see now is a lot of the people that are from here, you know, where they inherit the apartment or whatever, they're now selling and moving back to their little towns.
Yeah.
And they're selling it for a huge profit that would never have happened. Yeah. Coming in from the US, it's still cheap to buy it, but and you should always compare it to the prices of when you get there, not from the mindset of like, this is cheap compared to what I was paying. And it seems like it's something that people don't understand, and they jump in fit first or head first or whatever it is. And instead
it's so easy to find the prices too. I even before I came here, I just went on to Numbeo and just looked at all the prices and said, okay, this is what you should be paying, and so just come here and look for stuff that's, you know, in that price.
People don't do enough homework, unfortunately, and I think that is starting to affect a little bit, but not on the same proportion as it is in Madrid, and not even close.
I think you're right. I don't think Valencia would ever be like Madrid or Barcelona. It's never. It's not that international, and. But
it's not set up like that. The city is not set up like that. It's kind of weird.
And it's not even like if you go to the airport is not as integrated as those cities are. So you're never going to get the influx of people from other places. Those places are. I'm glad for me, I'm glad it's not going to happen, because I think to a certain extent, Madrid and Barcelona are so much geared toward tourism, and I think it affected the character of their city. And right now I don't see that in Valencia, but I don't. And I hope in the future it doesn't happen like what happened to Barcelona and Madrid.
I hope so too. I mean, I really do, because I really like it here.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? You know, I guess progress. You know. Now you mentioned, how is the cost of? Let's see. You know, for you, a single guy, what would you say the cost of living, like on an average month? How much do you spend, like rent?
I would say that, again, I'm not going crazy or anything. I mean, and again, the pandemic really lowered the expenses because you don't go out as much.
Exactly.
And you don't spend as much. But I would say on average, I was spending between 1,500 and 2,000 euros per month. And that's, again, That's because I was also traveling a little bit
Yes.
and, eating out if you go out with friends and stuff like that. But 1,500, and again, I'm talking about after tax income.
Mm-hmm.
1,500 would get you middle class, upper middle class lifestyle here.
Yeah.
You know,
I would say that was almost upper class because really
yeah,
between
no,
two of us here and two dogs, we spend an average of like 1,500 a month. But
yeah,
then we don't eat out nearly as much as you do because Feta cooks.
no,
But
actually, I actually cooked a lot, but I was actually including all my travel expenses and
oh,
everything. That's why I
travel,
was
yeah, that's definitely different. Yeah,
yeah,
that adds up to it. And it's not even
but
that bad traveling. Imagine if
yeah,
you were in the US and you had to, even going in the US, for instance, like the last time we went on vacation, we were going from Houston to like LA, and the ticket prices were like, if I was going from here to Nigeria, it was just insane how much you
yeah,
pay.
yeah,
Whereas here, it's like, oh, you're going to Lisbon, that'll be 15 euros each way. Oh, you're going to, it's like $24 each way. So the prices are definitely much lower. So yeah,
yeah.
on 1,500, you can now, is that
Now
what?
I'll give you a price. I'll give you a price comparison. I actually did a breakdown of what I was doing in the U.S. versus here. So
Yeah.
here's my breakdown. So I was living in San Francisco for almost 20 years, like
Okay.
16, 17 years or so. So I was living in an apartment in the city of San Francisco. I was paying for one bedroom in a pretty nice area in San Francisco, 4,000 a month. And other expenses like food expenses and everything. And again, I cook almost all my meals, so I didn't spend that much outside of the apartment as far as meals are concerned. Um, in San Francisco, my total expenses, if you include insurance, because again, in the US, you have to pay a lot more for
Yeah.
health insurance, and you need a car in the US, whereas
Yeah.
here you don't really need a car.
Exactly.
And other stuff in the US, well, food was definitely more expensive in San Francisco. And so if you include everything and everything together, I was spending roughly this is again, after tax money, after tax income, I was spending roughly around $7,000 to $8,000 per month, about 7,500, let's say.
And that's why I didn't move from LA to San Francisco. That was already high enough.
Yeah. So that's 7,500 after tax. So 7,500 after tax is probably what, like almost 10,000, 11,000. In
salary.
in salary. Yeah. So now compare that from San Francisco to here, 1,500 euros a month. I'm paying here 650 and I have an apartment, but it's a 3-bedroom apartment for
Imagine.
650 euros.
Yeah.
So another 150 in grocery expenses per year and per month. Utilities is less than 100 euros. I don't need a car. I've never needed a car here. I walk everywhere, and if I need to go to the city, I actually walked from here to the central market is like 7 kilometers, and I'll just walk. And I've never walked 7 kilometers.
And even your place is on the main metro line. There's like 5 metro lines, and you're like on the number 3, which is, it takes you from the airport to the middle of town.
Exactly.
So
exactly. So I don't never need a car here.
Exactly.
In fact, the only time I ever needed a car in Spain, and then again, this is in 2 years, is that one of the teachers invited me to her town in the mountains. And so I needed a car to go to the mountains, and another teacher was going there, so they gave me a ride. But that's the only time I've ever needed a car.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like here, or if I want to go to any other city, the public transportation is so good that I've never.
It's so great. Yeah, that is so cool. So now, you're talking, 7,500 to 1,500. Imagine that, 6,000 euros a month difference.
Yeah.
Almost between living there and living here. Now,
right.
Kris, would you say that?
And here's the big thing, Cam, is my lifestyle. If anything, I would say my lifestyle here is a little bit better because I can walk instead of having to drive everywhere.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm a little bit less stressed, a little bit healthier. And I love the people that I'm working. I love my job, so I would say if I look at everything, I feel like my life is probably a little bit better here.
Better here. That is fantastic. And that's what I love to hear. So everybody listening to this podcast, you can see, Spain is a great place. Valencia is a really good place. And here is somebody who's living and working here. Now, Kris, you said it was easy to get into the auxiliary program is there like a specific website to find this? Like what sort of qualifications do you need for being an auxiliary?
Well, there is a government website, and they have this entire elaborate process that you can apply to. The main thing is they're looking for college graduates. Most of the people in the program are just recent graduates, right out of college. It doesn't really matter which degree. It could be an education degree, which is typical, but it could be a science degree. It could be an engineering degree. We have degrees from all different fields. And so then basically you apply for it in January. Mm-hmm. And you submit all your documentation, you submit like your transcript, you submit teacher recommendations, you submit an essay, and then hopefully you have like all your other stuff too. Like you need a passport, you need other like documentation. You need like FBI background check. I'm trying to think of all the other stuff that you need, but basically everything that shows that you're a good, upstanding person, that you have the ability to teach, mm-hmm. and that you're able to travel to Spain. Basically, that's what they're looking for. Okay. And so then once you apply to the program, it takes about 3 to 4 months before you hear a response, because basically they're trying to gather all your materials and check your credentials. And then once they do all that, as part of your application process, you can choose where you want to live in Spain, which program that you want to apply to. Most people apply to Madrid and Barcelona, mm-hmm. but there's, I think, about 12 to 15 other comunidades that participate in the program. So if you want to go to like other areas that are not very popular, like Extremadura or Galicia, Castilla y León, you'll have pretty easy choice of going there. But, if you really want to go to Madrid, probably I would say about 50 to 60% of the people who apply to Madrid end up going to Madrid. But, you can choose your first preference, your second preference, and your third preference. So if your first preference is Madrid and you don't get it, they'll probably give you your second preference or your third preference. So it used to be that almost everyone who participated in the program will probably end up getting a place. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of people who end up getting a place, they choose not to go because they got a job in the U.S. and they decide they want to go rather than get a job and stay in the U.S. rather than coming here. You pay not very much for this program. I mean, in some communities, like in Madrid, I think it's actually Madrid pays more. They pay 1,000 euros per month, which is the highest. Mm-hmm. But if you go to Barcelona, it's like 700 euros per month, which is not enough to live on in Barcelona. So you probably are going to have to use your own
funds too.
Or you teach you teach what's called particulares, which is teaching at night to other private students to make some extra income so that you're able to like live in Barcelona. So it used to be that everybody who applied for the program probably got a place, and it's up to you whether you want to participate or not. Mm-hmm. But now the program has become more popular. So this year, I think they're saying that a lot of people, not a lot, but probably maybe like 20%, 30% of the people might not end up getting a place because a lot of people
there's just too many people.
I think what's happening is in the U.S. in the past year, because of COVID, they were not working, so they decided to apply for the program. There's a lot of people also posting on social media about the program. So a lot of recent graduates have started to apply for the program, and this year we have a lot of applicants, so it really slowed down the program. So last year they notified people where they were placed, like in mid-May, and now this is almost mid-June, and a lot of people still don't know where they're going.
Yeah, I see that happening even in the college that I take my Spanish classes at. We were asking her, when do we start, in September? And she's like, we have no idea because everything is just in flux. And she's like, I don't even know, so I can't make any plans. So once I know, I'll let you know. And it's already June. I mean, but this is just the way things are right now. Now, would you say, you were saying, in Barcelona with how much they get paid, there's no way you can live on that unless you share rooms and all that stuff. And you can do that
if you share a room. I think it's still hard because, like, if you share a room, it'll be like 350 or 400 euros. And if you include the utilities, maybe even a little bit more than that. And then you need for food. Yeah. And, need for transportation. So probably 700 to 800 euros is just on basic living expenses. And if you want to do anything, and you're in Spain, I mean, you're going to have to do something fun. I mean, that's the whole point of coming to Spain. So you're going to need at least probably like 900,000 euros, even if you're sharing a room.
Now, do you think what you get paid in Valencia will be enough for somebody to live on and even save a little, or just enough to live on?
So in Valencia, we do get 1,000 euros per month. So if you're sharing, you can definitely live. I don't share. So my monthly expenses is about 1,500 a month. I get 1,000 euros per month, but we only get paid for 8 months. So the other 4 months, you have to either use your own savings, or some people actually work during the summer. They could either teach online, or some auxiliaries work in like summer camps, or they do like local stuff here. So if you don't have savings, you're going to probably do have to work if you don't share.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go back home for a while and then reapply or something.
Yeah. Some do go back. But then again, if you're going back, you're spending like $800 or $900,
just in the flight. So. Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's not the, the smart way to do it. I mean, I think it's great if you're young and you have something like that, it's a way to like get to know other cultures. You come in and you can either like live and save depending on where. I mean, teaching is a very popular way of getting out of the country and getting to know what other places are like. I interview people who, in Vietnam, China, or whatever it is. But it's like, I think it makes you kind of observe what life is like outside of the country. And it's a year goes by really fast. And then you can decide if it's something that you want to do, or, something that you say, okay, I've done it. Now I can go back home, which leads me to my other question, Kris. Now that you've been in Valencia 2 years, you've been teaching, what are you going to do after the assignment? I guess the year is over. Do you like Spain enough to stay, or are you at the point where you're saying, okay, I've had enough, I want to go back?
Well, okay. So this is my second year. I just finished my second year and I re-upped for my third year. So I'm going to be here for another year, and it's going to be I lucked out. So I am at my same school for the third year in a row.
Oh, this is the first time I'm hearing that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really found a great fit for my program. I love the teachers. I love the kids at my school, and they went out of their way from their end to ask for me to come back each year. So it is a perfect fit from both ends. And so I'm really happy. But the sad part is that it's 3 years is the max that you could spend at any one school. And the reason that they do that is because in Spain, after more than 3 years, you get more worker rights.
Yep.
So they want to kind of not, give
nip it in the bud.
More voice to the auxiliaries. So they cap it at 3 years. And so that basically means that I have to apply from outside. If I want to stay in the program, that I would have to apply to other comunidades. So I could go to Andalusia, I could go to Murcia, I could go to Madrid or Catalonia, but I can't stay in Valencia if I want to teach another year. So what I'm thinking of doing instead of after my third year is over is apply into another teaching program rather than the auxiliary program. There is like beta, there is other program where you teach not at the public schools, but at the Catholic schools, at the religious schools. And so I'm thinking I'll probably end up doing that because I want to stay in Valencia. I love Valencia, and I can't see myself uprooting myself again. Yeah. Especially uprooting myself and coming from California to here, and now finally I love it here, to uprooting myself again and going to another place.
Gotcha. That sounds, that's like the perfect stamp of approval. I mean, that's something you can't say it any better. And that's something I've been finding with a lot of people. Even though I recently found this one woman and her husband who don't like Valencia, and so they're going to move to Marbella because they said Valencia is too much of a big city. And I was just like, okay, because it's not for everybody, obviously, but I don't know how Marbella will be much
it is definitely
different,
smaller,
right?
But yeah. But, that's funny because to me, Valencia never feels like a big city.
Yeah.
Because in the United States, a big city, you can drive for like 30 miles and 40 miles and you're still not out of the city.
Yeah.
Here in Valencia, everything is so condensed that I could literally walk, and I'm at one end of the town. I'm near the airport.
Mm-hmm.
The airport is at the edge of the city. I could literally walk from where I'm at, and I've done this like once or twice, all the way to the beach, which is at the other end of the town. And it's like, 12 kilometers or so. I've done that. And it takes me, an hour and a half, but that's the entire city.
Exactly.
I could never do that in San Diego or LA.
You
or
would
San
still
Francisco
be like at the end of your street. Or something.
Yeah. So for me, Valencia never feels like it's a big city. I think it's a perfect size for me.
Yeah. That's one of the things I like best about it. It's like, I kept saying, I felt like Goldilocks, like, this one doesn't fit, this one doesn't fit. And then you just find one that just clicks. And it's great. So,
well, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Since you bought a place and everything, are you basically set on staying here for the long term? So you're it. This is Valencia.
Yes, this is it. After traveling to so many places, and like a lot of times, even before we settled in Valencia, we were in Sevilla, we were in Malaga, we were in Malta. But even while we were in all those places, I would plan for us to stay at a place for 2 to 3 weeks. We were constantly going because I was always constantly looking for that next place. And it was only after we got here that the urge to look for another place just never came. And I was just like, and we kept saying, should we? And then we did, and like, nah. And then, but then we saw it was getting so much less. And then at some point we were just like,
So what separated, so in your mind, what separated Valencia from, let's say, Sevilla or even Madrid, for that matter?
Madrid, what actually did us in with, we both really loved it, but we found out it was really expensive. We went there for like 2 or 3 weeks, and we ate like locals, did everything that we were doing. And we started looking for apartments. And by the time we found one that we could actually afford, which was like, I want to say it was like 800 or 900 euros, which for me was a lot, and I didn't feel like paying that. We were at the Barajas airport. We were literally at the airport, and it didn't feel like I was in Madrid anymore because it was a neighborhood, but it was just like so far. Like to get there on the metro was like 45 minutes, and like, forget it. It wasn't worth it. So that was it. And then Barcelona, we had both thought about it, and we went to visit it, but he just couldn't connect with the city at all. And I was like, I was okay with it, it was fine. But once again, it was very expensive. And Seville, the little center was cute, but I don't know. It was just like, we lived, we decided to move a little bit outside of, like in a suburb outside of that. So it was a house with a pool and the whole thing. But it just, I love going to the city, doing little things, but I never felt like, oh, it was it. But there was just something. I think one of the first places we saw when we came out here was the City of Arts. And there was just something about the wide open spaces. And it was sort of like I felt, and now we live close to it because I prefer that to being right in the center of like everything. And I just feel like I like the city and the neighborhood cafes, but I like being outside, and 2 minutes I'm right at that wide open space. There's just something about it that just makes me happy. And I'm just like, this is it.
Yeah. It's interesting that everybody that I know who likes Valencia almost has like their own little thing that they like about Valencia. Like you're saying that, you like your kind of like being a little bit outside of Valencia, but also still being integrated as part of the like central Valencia.
Exactly.
I like the walkability aspect of Valencia and like the cohesiveness and the tight neighborhoods
I love it. I mean, we're like, maybe it says on Google Maps, we're like 26-minute walk to the Ayuntamiento, to the center. For me, which means like 45 minutes because I never just walk. For him, it was like 15 minutes.
It's so beautiful that it's like when you're walking, you're always like looking around like, oh, what's that? What's that?
Yeah, I never walk fast anyway, but I walk really slowly because everything is just nice. And you're taking it all in. And it's just, I just find the shady side, and I did, which I do often. We go my walks. I'm like, the restaurant is only a mile and a half, 2 miles. Okay, let's walk. It's just We don't use the car. We just walk everywhere. We take the bicycle or something, it's not.
Have you ever thought about not having a car, like getting rid of your car?
No, because it costs so little. It costs so little to the insurance.
Do you use it?
Yeah, no, we don't use it.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Because...
But have you ever tried getting a used car in Spain? Don't ever try getting a used car in Spain. It is so freaking expensive. It's like insane. So it's worth holding onto it than selling it and then someday thinking you want one. And then, yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that...
Well, if you had to do... Okay, so maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe the question is, if you had to do it over again, would you still get a car?
Well, the car was his. Like, we brought it from Rome.
So okay. It was a car
it was a car that his parents were using. And after his dad passed away, his mom didn't drive anymore. And it was just sitting there collecting dust. So we're like, okay, let's, we used it more in Sevilla because we were in the suburbs. But here we're right in the city. There's no need for it. So once you find a parking spot, you're like, yay.
How about a recommendation? So if, let's say somebody was coming to Valencia, and I already give my recommendation, I'd say probably not get a car because you don't need it. What would you say?
I always say, don't get a car.
Okay.
Don't get a car. Yeah. Get a bicycle. With a good lock.
Right. Yes. That's exactly right.
With a good lock.
Get a bicycle. You'll be healthier. You'll be happier. Yes. It'll be a lot easier to go anywhere.
Yeah, a bicycle or a bus pass. That's all you need, really.
Right. Or the metro, for that matter.
Exactly. Or the metro. Very cheap. So now I'm going to leave you with one last question. What would be your advice for somebody who wants to do the same thing that you are? Would you recommend this, changing your life and going to have new adventures? What would be your advice for somebody who's thinking about doing the same thing?
Well, okay. So here's the thing is that when I travel, and I hope it's the same for other people, is that I love traveling because I get a couple of things out of it. One is I get the adventure aspect of it, right? You have new experiences. You get to see new things that you don't see like in the United States or wherever you're living. So I love that. Okay. But the second thing that I think that I get from traveling is I learn from other people. I learn from other people, other societies, how they live. Maybe they're doing something different or better than what we do in the United States. And I'll give you a really good example of this is that in Spain, the life expectancy of people in Spain is about 4 to 5 years more than in the United States. And why is that? I mean, in the United States, the incomes is like double the income of in Spain, right? It's about 65,000 or 66,000 in the US and in the low 30s in Spain. So a lot more money in the US, but they live longer here. They have a healthier lifestyle here. So why is that? Is it the environment? Is there something about the environment that makes it better here? Now, I would say maybe there's a little bit of that, right? We were talking about the neighborhood. So it forces you to walk. So it's a people-centric neighborhoods rather than a car-centric neighborhoods like in the US where, I was telling you that I was growing up and we had to take a car everywhere. So if I want to go to the grocery store, take a car, go to school, take the bus, go to the park, take the car. So everywhere you needed a car. Here, everywhere you go, you walk there, or you can bike there. So a little bit about the environment makes you healthier here. So I think there's a part of it. Part of it is the food. The food here is the Mediterranean diet. It has a lot lesser calories. The portions are smaller here. So you'll notice that in the people. So the people are much thinner here than in the United States. So I think the lifestyle here, the food here is part of it, the reason why they live longer here. Part of it is the social structure that we were talking about before. Like, you're more integrated in the family, you're more integrated in the neighborhood. So you don't feel as lonely here. You always have somebody looking after you here. Like if I don't go to school for a couple of days, or if my neighbor doesn't see me for a couple of days, they'll text me and say, "Hey, is everything okay? Or is anything?" So people will definitely notice if something is going on with you. So part of it is a social structure here. So that means that I think there's less depression here, less loneliness here, definitely less mental illness here because of you have more people looking after you here. Yeah, more support here. And then I think the other thing is there's less stress also. So we're talking about, in the United States, you're always working, and so that creates a lot of stress for you. You spend a lot more hours working in the United States than here. And so I think here they enjoy life more. They take August off. They go and to their towns and neighborhood and so forth. So what I'm saying is, if you put all the things together, I think you can make a reasonable case that they all work together to create a better lifestyle. You live longer, you're happier, you feel better. And I hope that people travel, come to Spain, go to other countries, learn from those countries, and take those experiences back to the US so that they will have a better lifestyle, so that they can, do something that maybe they didn't think of, but because of that they traveled, they experienced something different, that they know that now they could do something else that makes their life better.
Yeah, that's great. So, it's something that you would definitely recommend then. It's like come and taste it and then, take it back and work on your...
Absolutely. Even if you don't want to live in another country, and I could see why people don't want to live in another country, because for me, I don't speak Spanish very well. I could see why, like if somebody who doesn't speak Spanish at all or not very well coming to Spain, they would definitely feel like an outsider and they're not going to like it here because, they probably have friends in the US, they probably have family, and they could talk with them on a daily basis that they can in Spain. And I could definitely see that. But what I'm saying is, even if you don't want to live in another country, at least travel to that country. Yeah. It doesn't have to be to Spain, but it could be to, even if you're living in the US, go to Canada. I mean, it's very similar to the US, and maybe, you'll learn something in Canada that's, that maybe, for example, healthcare. They do healthcare a little bit different in Canada. Maybe you'll learn something about healthcare and how they're doing it, bring it back to the US. If you're a little bit more adventurous, go to Mexico. I mean, Mexico is a fantastic country. I love Mexico City.
Me too.
I was surprised how much I love Mexico City. And all those stereotypes about Mexico being dangerous and being dirty and all that is not true.
Go find out for yourself. Go find out for yourself and stop believing all the crap that they shove down your throat in the television and radio and everything.
And if you try a little bit in Mexico City, and if you're nice to the people in Mexico City, they are fantastic people. They'll treat you really well. So I urge other Americans, or not just Americans, but other people in the UK, Australia, whoever you are, go outside of your comfort zone just a little bit, travel and experience life.
Thank you so much, Kris. You have put so many things in ways that I keep trying to tell people. And so it's great to hear somebody say the same thing. And I love the fact that you're loving Valencia. And I am so glad that you were able to talk to me today. It's been really great. And thanks again for chiming in. So everybody watching this, you've listened to Kris and you see what he says about, experiencing new things and making a new life somewhere else. And there's nothing else to add to that.
So I'll add one thing.
Okay.
I don't have kids or whatever. So, but what I've noticed with people who have families, who have kids, they love it just as much as me. For them, the kids coming here and seeing their kids experience a new life, a new lifestyle, I think they get just as much as people who don't have families, or who are, even if you're just, people just coming out of college and coming here. I think they experience as much, if not more, because their kids experience it too. I think it's fantastic for families also. That's
great. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. And as you said, we had a great time, didn't we?
Yes, yes, we did. Thanks everybody for listening to the show, and we'll see you on the next episode. And please don't forget to subscribe if you're enjoying the podcast. So see you later. Bye. Bye, Kris.
Adios.